just you get to choose. Right? Like here's the scenario. The environment gives us something which can be perceived as negative, can be perceived as not working, can be perceived as problematic. The world's ending. So we get to choose to see it like that, or we get to choose to see it as an opportunity.
So clearly that it's my responsibility now to do that for other people. If I have information and, other people's success is my success and vice versa.
Because you know what? Like, the challenges or the roadblocks are the journey themselves.
There's no big things. It's all little things compounding on top of each other.
We're live, Pro Advisor Coach podcast coming at you. Simple secrets of successful. What is the biggest distinction that you've made today in success, Coach Josh?
The value of having space in the schedule. I mentioned a couple cancellations before we were on camera today in my day, and I took full advantage of it with things that were most important to me, things I needed to catch up on, things I wanted to strategize about, and just having that space was, especially after some of the recent conversations we've been having about busyness and running at 80% or higher, that there's no space to strategize, to think, to reflect, and then we get to that overwhelm burnout. So I'm just appreciating space today.
Thank you for that lesson again, because I need to hear it every single week, I think, at this point. I still feel like there's a lot of things happening and being overscheduled, not inappropriately scheduled, because I think that's where it gets to, but overscheduled nonetheless. So even if there's people in the calendar with the right people, there's still got to be a limit. And the more I think about it, the more I realize it's got to be way less. And we did that episode on 70-20-10 because that's just the numbers we play with. But I'm starting to think it's a lot less than that.
Yeah, me too. It's almost like 50 something. Yeah. Is that possible? Because there's probably a ton of resistance to that, right? There's no way that could be true. That's the first thing that shouts in my mind. What about you?
Yeah, the first thing is, I can do some more time. I can do some more in there. I can do some more. Do some more. Do some more. I just got off with a client, and he changed his role a bit. And his role before was much more based on time rather than based on results. And for a number of reasons, it was not forced into, but the situation was conducive to it being more now of he had a bunch of things to do, and he goes in and gets them done and then leaves, rather than just being there and burning 12 hours a day, because that's what it would be. Because in a place of business which he could have things to do across the whole spectrum of 12 hours. But he's noticing he's more effective, more focused. People enjoy him more, and he's a better leader. But yeah, it seems like it's way too much, doesn't it? Not enough. But I'm not quite sure what my next move is around that. What do you think, Coach?
I had a journal entry last night, I think, that it dawned on me about giving up something that was really important to me. As you know, with what I'm doing with ball hockey community and local hockey league here, I'm doing 2 or 3 major things that are really important to me. And I just kind of accepted I'm going to do the best I can with those things. However, what keeps coming up is how much time they take up, and that's even with delegating. So there's progress being made there, but the idea of and it doesn't have to be one of those things, but that's just an example, right? Something big in my life that I've just grown accustomed to. The thought of shedding something big like that is almost exciting to me. It's no longer about accumulating or finding as many things that I'm passionate about as possible. It's how can I make the biggest impact with maybe even the fewest number of things.
I'm reading a book right now, 10x is easier than 2x. Have we talked about this?
I don't think so.
We talked about it on the mastermind that we're in right now, I think. It's fantastic. And it's really, again, more more observations around the 80-20 rule, and we talk about this a lot because it's just, I guess, where we are, like where I am. And in order to get to that next level, make that leap to the next version of yourself, you essentially have to take the 80% of the things that aren't the 20% that's giving you 80% of results. So 80% of the things you're spending time on, and remove them. No wonder people don't do this.
I'll say that again. So the 80-20, so the 80%, and to remove all of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So we know that 20% of our 80% of our results come from 20% of what we're doing. So where you're spending your actual time that's ideal, where you have an impact, is 20% of your time. So by numbers, 80% of what you're doing is not that 20%. So that 80, the only way you can add more to that 20% is to remove the 80. Because if it's not by 20%, in that 20% that's giving you the 80% of results, by default, it's not ideal time you're spending with ideal clients or things that you love the most.
I see that.
You can start stacking 20% though. So if you've got your 100% pie or stack of percentages, 20% is giving you 80% results. So remove that 80% that's not giving you, that's only giving you the other 20% of results. Now you've got 80% of, you've got like all this extra time that you can go and create another 20% activity. So giving that percentage back to your 20%. And then you do the same thing again, right? Because then you'll find that when you maximize that 20%, you'll still have 80% that's not giving you the max results. So you can remove it again, remove it again, remove it again. And you keep stacking the 20%. So you can end up with 100% of 20%, and then do it again and again and again.
Right, and then what? Like, where would that lead to? Is that like a sweet spot thing with like, okay, I'm settling in. I'm doing all my favorite things all the time.
Well, it keeps making leaps, right? It's the mountain analogy, right? From the mountain you're at, you can see the next mountain, but you can't see the one that's on top of that and far past that. So you don't know it exists until you get there.
Right.
So you think, so this is like the 10x leaps to make. Go on.
Oh, well, I was just going to make the observation that like sometimes we try to get out ahead of, well, what will it look like? And like, we don't need to know. It will present itself when we make one of the leaps. All of a sudden, all these other options are available to us that there's no way we could have known about in our original state.
Right. So it requires stopping all of those things first. And that's the like stopping all of those things because you haven't even got the time to see, but maybe just enough to create the time so you can see what it is. Then being committed to stop all those things to move into that next place. So think about the times when you've made 10x leaps. Right, so think about a time in your life, coach, where you've made a change so significant that it changes the game that you're actually playing. Not makes you better at the game, but changes the game that you're playing. I mean, I can think about how we first met, right? I mean, that's an obvious one. You think of another one?
Yeah, I think just my original move to Charlotte originally was probably a game changer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a 10x leap, 10x move.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Interesting, because I never thought of it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I did this exercise in my mind about my 10x leaps because we've all had them. It's how they come. So when my first job in the city of London got made redundant, so I wasn't really me being active in it, but the job I got next was 10x different from the one I just had in terms of opportunity and potential.
Oh wow.
And then because I was working at small brokers that wasn't really going anywhere, I couldn't really get anywhere, to move to an investment bank where there was no limit of upside of really where I could work. But then I didn't maximize that. But then the next part was when I quit to go traveling. When I came back, the job I could have got in London minimum would have been like 30% more pay than when I left 8 months before to go traveling.
Hmm.
And then I didn't get a job in London. I got a job in the Philippines, which was a completely different perspective and game changer in terms of what I could have learned anyway. That was like a 20x leap, very different. And then coming to
20 actually.
America, then changing role types, and then going to New York, and then changing industries, then coming to Charlotte, and then coming to Pro Advisor Coach. Like, well, they're not. I mean, you could have it where you move jobs, and they're not leaps. I think, but those are what those. I mean, there's plenty of different jobs I had in the meantime which weren't leaps. Those ones were, for sure.
Hmm.
Having kids, getting married, there were leaps in how different you become.
Wow. Yeah. So changes or adjustments or actions that totally change the game. Is it automatically forward 10x? Are there some that set you back, or is it like you can't possibly lose? Just change. Just keep changing the game.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's you. I think it's yeah. You can bet sideways leaps, I suppose. But the point is to be intentional with it. Like they happen anyway with things that you want. But I mean, 10x leaps with in different parts of your life. If we think of it just purely from a business perspective, you might make a 10. Part of making a 10x leap to coaching was that my frustration for where I was. So it's like get out rather than go towards.
Yeah, just thinking of it linearly, linear, is that a word? Linearly, in a linear manner, linear manner. uh, any change will eventually lead to a 10x leap. So maybe it's not that actual change, but it opens up the opportunity for that 10x leap to happen after that.
Well, then another way of looking at a 10x leap is that it's not a linear change; it's an exponential change.
Mm-hmm.
And we always think in a linear fashion because that's how our minds go. What's the example that it's like if it takes 3 hours to dry one towel on a washing line, you put three towels there. How many hours does it take to dry them?
Should be 1 hour.
It takes
Wait,
3 hours to dry one towel,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
put
it's the
three
same
towels.
time, same time.
Yeah, and and but the linear thinking is that it's 9 hours, right? It's like that's not true, obviously.
Mm.
That's how our minds tend to think, though, right? If it took 3 hours to do this, if I do twice as many, it's going to take 6 hours. The exponential thinking is that like, oh, if I did 10, like why could it maybe even be quicker? Like because we're thinking about time as just a chronological time, not in the
Yeah,
results.
I was thinking of it in terms of actions. So actions, I think by nature have to be like there's no exponential action, as in like I can't, you know, go from one side of the world to the next and like instantaneously. Not yet, at least. Maybe that's coming, but I can't like go into a portal. So that's like a relief for me to think about. Like it can be as simple as an action or a decision. Um, it's not something that's out of my realm of possibility to be able to leap 10x in what world, right? Is that financially? Is that emotionally? Like there's different ways to think about that. But either way, it requires an action that doesn't necessarily have to be massive. It just has to be like a game changing action or game changing decision.
Well, if we follow the logic of the 80%, so in theory, if you took all your clients and said, everyone except the 20% that give me my 80% of my results, and you fired the rest, you're suddenly now in this place where you've got, or not just clients, but maybe time you spend on Zoom or connecting, or what you do through the week from a business perspective, you're suddenly going to have 80% more time. And if you've got that 80% more time, then you're not only going to be in a place where you've got enough time that you can make a significant difference quickly. You can use compound interest of time as well. And you're going to have a lot of leverage on yourself because you just cleared up 80% of your schedule. Whereas some of the things we're doing right now are utilizing 10s and 20s and 30% of time around the edges.
Do we have some sort of action item we're getting to this week? It seems scary to me to cut out 80% of my current things, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe I need to write about that and think about that a little bit more.
Yeah, this has actually been really helpful for me to think about it, because that's the literal impact of it. Is looking at just, you can do it from any other part of your lives, right? Like out of business, what are you doing with your time? Out of your day, what are you doing with your time? If I look at just my business schedule, which I am over here right now, if I got rid of 80% of it, it's going to be a damn lot of time. Scary as hell.
But maybe 10x leaps are.
Yeah. So the message this week is fire all your clients.
Rob's going to put that up in the graphics right there.
What's that?
Rob's going to put it up in the graphics right there. Fire all your clients. And Coach Nick's takeaway.
But we're always moving towards getting tighter and tighter who we're working with, right? And I think I've done a good job doing that with people I love to work with. And what if I did it again? And did it again, did it again, and did it again? That's the place where you keep pushing yourself to get better. And who knows where you end up. So that's what my takeaway is.
Yeah, mine are game-changing decisions are not that far away.
Some stuff, Coach. Let's keep it rocking and rolling.
All right. See you next time.
Take care.
Thank you for watching another episode of Truth Seekers. We appreciate your interaction. So please comment, like, subscribe to YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more, check out some of our links. Links to our masterclass, The Achiever's Mindset, and come join our LinkedIn group. And what do you want to see more of? Remember, we're here to share the simple secrets of successful. So help us do that. What do you want to see? What do you want to see more of? Thanks, and see you again next time.